running for mayor of Commercial Point. And thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you to the Commercial Point Men's Club for hosting this event. Commercial Point has been my home for 50 years. It's where I raised my family, built lifelong friendships, and found a true community. This village isn't just where I live, it's who I am. Over the years, I've been proud to serve in many ways, from PTO and the Side of Kids Association to council, and now as your mayor. Each step has been a chance to give back to the place that has given me so much. Now as we look ahead, we face a defining moment. Growth is coming to Commercial Point. It's not a question of if, but how. And the choices we make today will shape our community for decades to come. Pickaway County is now the second fastest growing county in Ohio, and major companies like Andrew are investing here. That growth brings incredible opportunity, but only if we commit ourselves to responsible growth. My vision is simple. Responsible growth that strengthens our community without losing what makes us special. That's why when I was on council, we called for a land use committee. And now we're calling for moving forward with a professional land use plan. A planning and zoning board is also essential, made up of people with the experience and foresight to help shape the future of our village. These steps aren't about more government, they're about protecting our neighbors, ensuring safe streets, and making sure every new development adds to our quality of life. I've also worked to keep our community safe by investing in our police department, providing our officers with training and tools so they can serve with professionalism and care. Safety is the foundation of responsible growth because families and businesses alike need to know our community is secure. And I've rebuilt partnerships with our township and our schools. When our village, township, and schools work together, we lay the groundwork for responsible growth that benefits everyone. Our children succeed, our neighborhoods thrive, and our community grows stronger. This election isn't just about the next 2 years, it's about the path we choose for the next generation. Do we want to embrace responsible growth that brings opportunity while protecting what we value? Or do we risk losing control and letting outside forces define our future? That's the choice before us. I love Commercial Point, I believe in its future, and tonight I'm asking for your support to continue this work. Campaigns take resources to share our vision with every neighbor, to stand strong against outside pressures, and make responsible growth more than a slogan. It has to be our reality. With your vote, can I finish my 3 lines?
3 minutes is up.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jason West, and in the past, I've had the honor of serving as Commercial Point Village Council member. In that role, I worked to apply my professional leadership experience to help guide our community with responsibility, accountability, and vision. At 48 years old, I bring with me not only decades of business ownership and management experience, but also a deep commitment to family, community, and perseverance. I was born in Columbus, Ohio, and in 2006, in Tucson, Arizona, I married my wife, Cassie, a kindergarten teacher. Together, Cassie and I raised our youngest children, James and Zoe. I also have an older son, Trey, who lives in Laurelville, Ohio, with his wife, Heidi. Today, I'm blessed with a wonderful grandson, Oliver. In 2018, after Cassie's terminal diagnosis, we chose Commercial Point as our home. Cassie was highly educated and deeply devoted to our children's future, carefully researched schools and districts, and selected Taze Valley for its outstanding programs. Partially, its support of children with special needs. We have also found Commercial Point's small town charm in its proximity to both hospital and family to be a perfect fit. Life's journey has not been without challenges. In 2022, after temporarily moving back to Arizona to help my family, to help care for an aging family member's real estate business, as well as my own business in Arizona, my wife passed away just 30 days after we returned there. 8 months later, my children and I came back to Commercial Point for good, because this is the community that has always felt like home. Professionally, Professionally, I bring over 20 years of business ownership and management experience. I worked my way from stocking shelves to becoming a general manager and ultimately the owner of 2 successful retail stores. The experience taught me the importance of hard work, accountability, customer service, strong forward thinking, forecasting, and mentorship. I have also been a strong voice against irresponsible growth and unchecked development. Irresponsible growth would overcrowd our schools, burden vital services such as police, fire, street maintenance, and raise taxes on hardworking families. I believe in smart, responsible growth preserves our schools, preserves our infrastructure, and safeguards the small town charm that brought so many of us here in the first place. I am running because I believe Commercial Point deserves thoughtful leadership rooted in real-world experience and genuine care for families. My focus is on keeping the community safe, supporting local schools, families, first responders, and small businesses, while protecting the character of Commercial Point and ensuring that the growth happens in a way that benefits our residents and not at their expense. This community has been there for my family in times of joy and in times of hardship. Now I wish to give back by continuing to serve you and making sure that Commercial Point remains a place we are all proud to call home. It would be an honor to lead our community into the positive, balanced future. Thank you for your support.
So good evening. Before I get started, I wish to thank the Men's Club for hosting this event and for all the positive impacts you bring to Commercial Point. Secondly, thanks to you all for actually coming out here today and engaging with the leaders who are looking to lead this community for the next several years. And lastly, I want to appreciate each of these candidates who are up here for their willingness to step up and dedicate themselves to actually serve. My name is Dustin Fox. I'm here to ask you for your vote to continue serving on Commercial Point Council for the next 4 years. I'm not a politician or a social media influencer, just a dad and husband who loves this community. Don't expect any eloquent speeches from me, but I wish to share 4 principles that I use each day to guide my home and my life. First one is respect. Understand that we all have opinions and experiences. We mustn't treat each other lesser for that fact, but treat each other with dignity. Integrity. Do the right thing, even and especially when no one's watching. Let your actions back up your words. The third is accountability. We all have someone we are responsible to, whether it's developers or public officials. This should be an everyday occurrence, not just on election day. And finally, common sense. Making practical, reasonable decisions based on basic, everyday knowledge, experience, and the values that we collectively share. Now, it seems that common sense is illegal in Washington, D.C., but here in Pickaway County, we need to make it mandatory. Again, my name is Dustin Fox. I'm running for Commercial Point Council, and I ask for your vote in November. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Linda Holdren, and I'm honored to be running as a write-in candidate for Village Council here in Commercial Point. My husband Ralph and I have called Commercial Point home for the past 6 years. We previously lived in Asheville, and I'm a proud 1992 graduate of Tays Valley High School. Together, we've raised 4 wonderful kids, 2 of whom also are Tays Valley grads, and we now have the joy of being grandparents to 6 amazing grandkids. Now, I'll be honest, this campaign didn't start the way we expected. Ralph originally filed to run for this seat, but due to a paperwork issue, his petition couldn't be validated. We were both disappointed, but we didn't walk away, because we share a deep commitment to this community, and we believe in stepping up when it counts. I'm running for council because I believe Commercial Point deserves transparent, responsible, and community-focused leadership. I bring over 30 years of experience in real estate appraisal and tax assessment, including 10 years with the Franklin County Auditor's Office. Through this work, I've developed a strong understanding of how local policies affect everyday people, and I want to help make those decisions more accessible and easier to understand for all residents. More importantly, I bring dedication, honesty, and integrity to everything I do. I believe in doing the right thing even when no one's watching, and in making decisions that reflect not just what's legal, but what's fair and in the best interest of the community. One of my top priorities is transparency. Important decisions that affect our daily lives shouldn't be made behind closed doors. Council should be open, inclusive, and willing to truly listen. Residents deserve to have their voices heard and respected, not ignored or dismissed. I'm also committed to responsible growth. Growth can be a good thing, but only when it's planned carefully and supported by infrastructure and services we all depend on, like schools, police and fire departments, utilities, and roads. This is a write-in campaign, and I know that takes a little extra effort on your part, but I promise to match that effort with full commitment to serving you, representing your voice, and strengthening the connection between residents and local leadership. Thank you again for your time and support. I look forward to the opportunity to help build a stronger and more unified commercial point together.
Hi, I'm Ralph Wolf. I am Sauter Township trustee, been a trustee for 8 years, 2 terms. I wanted to address something that was posted on social media today, something that was very aggravating and also very stressful from 2016. And I can assure you these candidates I'm running against are all fine gentlemen. But if anyone wants to go back to my Facebook, I'm in an orange wig flying a plane. I'm at the crew game with my orange wig and outfit on. But this is a nonpartisan race. And I just want to say I've owned rental properties since I've been 19 years old. I take a loss being a trustee, so I had to get a management company. I absolutely love what I do for the township. I am in that office probably 4, maybe even 5 times a week. I don't know how many times someone's called me at 2 in the morning and they've lost their loved one and they wanted to go and find the grave at 2 in the morning, and I said, I don't sleep usually. I'll meet you at the office, you know. So I just give them a big hug, and you know, they come into the office and they come to down here to Sauter Township, which we absolutely love, Pickaway County, and they want to build a house. And they're like, well, we bought 5.1 acres of a yard, now we're going to build a house. They're at the happiest time in their life. And then maybe a month later, I see them again, their loved one had passed, they have to bury somebody in their family. So for me, it comes to full circle, and I absolutely love what I do. There's 2 available seats, and I would love to serve with any of these people up here. So, let's see. Oh, the cell phone tower I've been fighting for almost 10 years. We're finally getting it over in the woods of the new fire station, which is great. Also, I'd like to see a township-wide trash and recycle service. I tried about 8 years ago and was shot down. But I think as time goes on, recycling is very important to citizens in the area, so we don't fill those landfills up even more than we already are. Also, I wanted to address something. I was at the fish fry. I work behind the counter with a big smile. But I want to make sure everyone knows if you live in Southern Point, Sauter Crossing, Walker Point, Foxfire, Sauter Green, Commercial Point proper, Genoa Crossing, even Carmel Court, you actually vote for Sauter Township trustees. I met a lady and she says, well, I don't know where to vote. I'm from Foxfire. So I looked it up, and all of a sudden they said, we're standing on the ground you vote. It says here at the Men's Club, you vote on November 4th. So it's pretty ironic, and she didn't even know that you could even vote for a trustee or the township stuff. So anyway, I would love your vote. I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm always a free notary. And the last thing I ask is that you remember to bark like a dog. That's my name, Ralph Wolf. Ralph Wolf on November 4th. And I thank you so much, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob. First thing I want to do, good evening, my name is John Maynard, former township trustee, served from 2016 to 2023. I want to thank the Men's Club for inviting everybody out and hosting us tonight, as well as those who have attended. And again, I appreciate all those up here that have taken the time and the effort to make themselves available to serve the community. That's very important. One thing I'd like to make clear is, and state is I'm not running against anybody on this panel. I'm running for you, the residents of the township. And that's first and foremost. Had the honor of serving the trustee, like I said, from 16 to 23. Take great pride in serving the township and our community. I've always been a servant of our township and the community. I believe I can help lead the township and position itself for the future. I will serve with trust, transparency, and the spirit of cooperation, collaboration, and action. Community involvement and support. I've always been a strong advocate of the community. served on the community action team with the Tays Valley School District Advisory Team, addressing all our challenges we've all noticed and feel with the expansion of the school system, with the structures, the taxing, the need for new improvements as far as the expanded enrollments and future structures. I believe in my experience, while on the board, for those 8 years, we had a positive carryover. We had a funding agreement we organized with the developer, and entered into an agreement with the developer off of 104 that actually directly will fund $1.25 million directly to the Scioto Township Fire Department. Line item for fire and EMS services strictly cannot be used for general fund. That's something above and beyond our normal taxing. As far as trustee, from 16 to 23, we delivered over 100 projects, road improvements, totaling over $2 million. I'd like to talk now about the responsibility and sustainable growth that we're facing. We hear a discussion a lot regarding the coming growth to Scioto Township and the Village of Commerce Point. I'd like to know that that growth is already here. So it's not coming, it is here and well underway. Now is the critical time to address the array of positive and negative impacts and concerns for that such growth. We need to lead with transparency, guarding the trust of the people, and be mindful of all issues with regarding of the taxing of the residents of this township and the county and the community. Local government is ultimately responsible for the growth and sustainability of this community. Constituents and local businesses not only deserve but require us to be held to a standard of leadership that ensures a sustainable, positive outcome for the growth. This means we must be open, transparent dialogue, cooperate with all local entities. That includes the trustees, Village of Commercial Point, Tays Valley School District, state and Pickwick County officials.
3 minutes.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the members of the Men's Club for organizing this event, and thank you for all you people for attending tonight's Meet the Candidates for the upcoming election. Best of luck to all the other candidates for the trustee position. My name is Andy Ormiston, a man of faith, family, and community. I've been married to my best friend for over 39 years, Rosemary. We have 3 adult children and 5 grandkids. We are a blessed family that lives in this community. I'm a military veteran serving in the United States Air Force. I've lived in this community for over 25 years. I volunteered many hours with the Men's Club festivals, go-kart races, ball field repairs, and dressing up for the Easter Bunny for the children. In my professional career, I've covered 40 years of keeping aircraft safe and trustworthy from the military and civilian sector as an aircraft mechanic and inspector. My experience deals with regulations, working with high-dollar budgets, reading blueprints from engineers, and dealing with people from all around the world and making critical decisions on safety and repairs of aircraft. My goal is to be elected as a township trustee to serve the residents as a professional, open-minded, with a caring attitude. I will work with my teammates, the other trustees, in making the right decisions for our community and the future of this great township. I truly appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dan Woolley. I'm a resident here of Scioto Township for the last 16 years with my beautiful wife, my 2 daughters, and my grandson, who's a year old. I grew up in upstate New York, very rural upstate New York, and I mean, it makes Commercial Point look like a metropolis where I grew up. And I grew up in a bipartisan household. My mother was a Democrat from Alabama, my father was a Republican from upstate New York. So I know, I was born and raised seeing both sides and saw how compromise was made in a very loving way. And that's important to me. I've been asked to run multiple times for this position, and I just believe that now is the time is right for me to step up and give back to the community. Been very active in this community since I moved here with the United Methodist Church. where I'm studying at Kingswood University to become an ordained pastor. And I served in multiple positions in both churches, from finance chair, trustee, you name it. And then over here, it's the same thing, I'm in a leadership role besides being an associate pastor while I'm in training. Otherwise, you see my title out there in the pit on Facebook. I just believe in giving back. I brought my family up and my kids up with giving back to the community. That's how I was raised. And I was also raised that there's no such thing as not being busy. If you're not busy, find a room, do something. There's always something to do. And it's no different in being a trustee or a council member or anything. There's a lot to do here. There's a lot going around right now about growth. Where do I stand on growth? Growth is inevitable. Just since I moved to Ohio in 2002, there was nothing on Stringtown Road east of 71 except Jackpot Road and Bob Evans. Everything else was fields. Now look at Stringtown Road and see where it's coming south. We have two paths, folks. We can bury our heads in the sand and say it's not coming. And when we pull our head out of the sand, we are going to be either Columbus or Grove City. Now, we can be a history or a legacy. I would rather Scioto Township be a legacy instead of a line on a map. And this can be done through responsible growth, not just closing the doors behind us.
Good evening, my name is Corey Wasmus. It's funny how these things go. I'm kind of at a disadvantage. I guess I get to hear everything and I'll pick the best things out of what they said and repeat it to you. That'll be the best plan. But I will say, I want to read this part because I don't want to get this one wrong. It has to do with my family, most importantly my wife and my mother, so I can't get this one wrong. Good evening, my name is Corey Wasmus. I'm a Christian. Well, it has to do with Jesus too. I'm a Christian, a husband, a father of 2 teenage boys, and a lifelong resident of Scioto Township. I was raised by my mother and father. They're here tonight on Gibson Road, right up the road here. And I think I'd agree with Dan. He said something about where he grew up with. It would make Commercial Point what would you say, something about Metropolis? How do you say that again? It would make, Commercial Point would make where he grew up.
No,
How'd it go again?
where I grew up would make Commercial Point look like a metropolis.
Where he grew up, it would make Commercial Point look like a metropolis. I would say the same thing. I grew up right up the road, and looking at today, it would look like a metropolis. I think many of us in this room would say the same thing. To look at today and think, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, would you ever think where we're at today? And that's not always a bad thing. I mean, we have neighbors we've met, friends. Some of us have family now that we wouldn't have living close to us unless homes came in. And I think my message has probably been changed, some to my fault, some to other people just putting my message on there, but I'm for responsible growth. And the second part of that is growth. I want us to grow. I want us to have homes and families move in, churches, good businesses, places for people to work, to raise their own family. So I grew up here. I moved back here to raise my own family. I love it here. I think everybody in this room, you love it too, or you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't take your evening and come out and listen to all of us talk and see what we see for our future together, because that's the most important thing. Not to get too much like it's our thing, but it is. It's all of us together in this room. I don't want to be cliche or anything, but you're making a decision. Who do you want to lead us over the next 4 years? And I want to help lead that. A council of 3 men, and the firefighters, and the road crew, and the fiscal officer. Be in that together, leading all of us together into the future. So my wife said, "Don't say no moms." I don't know how many I'm up to now, right? 5 or 6. I'm trying my best, but another reason that I'm running is to show that anybody can do this. I started out coming to meetings, getting a burr up my butt, getting upset about something, and coming to the meeting and saying how I felt as a resident, not only for myself, but for my neighbors. And somebody said, "Well, you're a NIMBY, not in my backyard." And I've kind of embraced that, because when something happens right in your backyard, suddenly it matters to you. But once you get up there, you realize, hey, it gives me the passion so other people can do the same thing. Thank you.
I'll just use this. I'm honored to be here tonight. My name is Nancy Hunter. I'm a trustee at Pleasant Township in Franklin County, and I'm very impressed to see how many people came out tonight. It's wonderful that you all want to be involved and engaged, so we will get on to this, so we're not here all night. So the first question, since Mr. Wasmus got to have the advantage of listening to all of them, you can go first. This is for everybody.
I like your style. Do I stay here or you want me to come to you?
Well, you'll have to have this. In what roles have you served on council, mayor, township, and for how long? What should we know about your role?
Thank you. It's a good question. So I spent quite a few years, and like I said, I was born here, raised here during the Great Recession. I don't know if that's the right thing to call it, but I think we went through it. We call it the Great Recession. I had to move to work, and I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. It's where the only work was. I was raised on a construction crew. Basically, one of my dad's friends said, man, he was learning construction before he learned how to talk. I think that's true. I worked on a boom truck and all that, but I ended up moving to Charlotte for work, and I served on a planning review board, architectural review board there in Mecklenburg County, and a lot of people would call it the state of Mecklenburg. It was very tough, stringent. You had a lot of historical homes, things like that. So I served on an architectural review board there for many years, and also a zoning board down there. I was very active in. I didn't have an official role, but I went to many of them every Tuesday morning for work. So I'd say that, and here lately I've been, I guess not an official role either, but very involved. And I tell people all the time I'm a nerd with this stuff, and I try to use it as a compliment to tell people that do these things. We're kind of a nerd. There's very few people that get into this and dig into zoning things. Not many people take interest in until they have to go get a permit or something. But yeah, I do a lot of this stuff and I enjoy it. And I think that would probably answer the question.
Thank you. We'll just go down the road.
Start down here, Dan.
Thank you. Even though I've never really served in a civil office per se, I don't believe that's a detriment to my running for this position. I think it's an opportunity. I do possess a very strong business acumen. I've worked in the construction industry. I was a sales rep. You name it, I've done it. My kids joke that my resume reads like War and Peace. I'm not a job hopper. It's experience growing up in upstate New York. It's very seasonal. So when you're in the construction world, you know, it's hit or miss and everything like that. So it was my goal to find something more steady. That's when I got into sales and worked for John Deere. And then the last job I had was branch manager for New Holland dealership. Was responsible for every facet of running the business. I came out here to Ohio in 2002, and then worked in HVAC for a year, and then got into data storage, and did that for the last 24 years. And then now I'm currently a branch manager at Herc Reynolds, running a multi-million-dollar fleet, 25 employees, and I'm not afraid to No, it's, I'm willing to learn, and bring what I already know. I'm very process-driven, and just have great integrity, and honesty, and I will bring that to the position and do everything I can and work as hard as I can for the people of Salem Township.
Thank you. Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. In what roles have you served on council, mayor, or township, and for how long? What should we know about your role?
Those roles I've never served in. I've been a union steward for a major airline for 10 years, dealing with high dollar budgets and legislation of regulation and rules, and for families, guidance, and laws. So the answer to the question is I've never been on a role like this. I feel that my experience with people, from dealing with people around the world, and my volunteerism, being a big help to this table, and deciphering the regulations and the rules for this township. Thank you.
Thank you. As far as past experience, I was a township trustee from 2016 to 2023, served 8 years. Had the pleasure of serving with various components of members, Mr. Struckman, Terry Brill, Ralph Wolf, Ron Jan, and Mr. Fannin. As far as experience, I got 40 years experience working in public service as a servant to the public. 30+ years, Department of Transportation, worked from counting cars, doing traffic impact studies, all the way up to when I retired. I was appointed through the governor's office, and I ran the real estate department for the Department of Transportation. Oversaw all 88 counties as far as road improvements, road projects, acquisition of roadways, utilities. When I left, we had 170+ wells that we managed, and all the cell tower sites in the state of Ohio and public rights of way. Had 172 employees, and we reorganized and got it down to 28. As far as currently, last 9+ years, I am the real estate administrator for the Franklin County Engineer, to oversee the real estate program for the county. I've had experience working with Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, Ohio Public Works Commission, State of Ohio, Pickwick County Engineers, Kent County Engineers, local townships with the Township Association here in Central Ohio. I've operated budgets as far as serving with the township, plowing snow and ice, doing equipment purchasing, overseeing the components of the township services, doing road constructions. Many days myself, Ralph, Ron, Bart was out there doing the actual construction, road improvements, open ditches, land pipe, doing pot repair holes and all that. So vast experience as a township trustee. As far as leadership and collaboration, I was a liaison, local public agency liaison for the state of Ohio. So I know how to work with other parties. With this growth coming, it's going to take transparency and cooperation with the school board, with the village, with the local officials, state officials, as I said earlier. And I believe I have that vast amount of experience, over 40 years experience, working together, collaborating to make sure that the right people are at the right table, having the right discussions, and for the betterment and the better, not only for the current community, but it's important for the future of this community and the integrity of this community. We're still a rural area. Ag is the biggest industry in the state of Ohio. We cannot lose focus of that, but we also have to recognize growth is here. It's not coming this year. And I think I have the experience and the wealth of knowledge and the spirit of cooperation to work with anybody as a trustee, with the fellow trustees, and with the members of Commercial Point and the local community. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Ralph Wolf, still, and for 8 years, I've been over the fire department, the cemeteries, the zoning, the office staff, and most of the other 2 trustees are farmers and they own companies and stuff. And my daddy always said, just worry about your own work ethic, don't worry about somebody else's. So I put a lot of hours into the township, but that's exactly what I love to do. Also, in January, I want to address, if I am elected, humbly elected, I would like to start the video of the meetings, so it's just like the village, so it's full transparency, no anonymous names, no fake whatever, and it can be right on the YouTube thing also. I just think that's very important that people put their name on stuff. I've been through a lot of stuff in the last few weeks, and I'm like, I'm not running to be governor, it's a trustee position, so, but I have had a lot of work in the last 8 years. Some people come to me about the cemetery, and I go right there. I always address the issue with the groundskeepers, the zoning. I'm in that office, like I said, 4 or 5 times a week. Fire department's great. They run a really tight ship over there. I have to babysit them, which is great. And you know, we built that $4 million firehouse on Walker Road at 440, and it looks amazing instead of our shack in the alley that we had. So, but I thank you all very much.
I have 0 experience in any kind of elected position. What I do have is 32 years experience being a public servant, basically. I started out as a data entry operator with a real estate appraisal company. They did real estate appraisal for tax purposes. I started that in 1992. So I have 33 years experience overall. I still do it to this day. My current title is project manager. So I've just slowly worked my way up over the years, spent countless hours working with taxpayers, identifying reviews, answering phone calls. I still answer phone calls to this day to make sure their information is updated. Currently manage a staff of about 30 people and make sure that we get the products delivered to our client on time successfully. And I've been able to do that for my entire career.
Well, aside from my roles in public sector, working for the city government, I actually was honored to be recently selected to serve on your village council in August. Our first meeting was actually just last Monday, so I appreciate that. I'm here to ask for your vote to continue that service. But I've also worked with our land use committee for the council, attending all of those and working with the council members to determine any future land use that we may have in the future. I currently serve on our church business committee for our management team for our local church, and previously a couple years ago, as John mentioned, volunteering on the schools community advisory team. So that's all I have.
I was elected to village council in 22 was when I stepped down. On that village council, you have to learn a lot of things pretty quickly, and you have to learn them on your own sometimes. Sometimes you have a little bit of help, but got a little bit into zoning with the village council. A little bit of development with the builders that come in that ask questions, stuff like that. On a personal side, I can tell you that I've served on several steering committees, finance committees, audit committees with the Commercial Point Men's Club. I've served on buildings and grounds. I've also done business consulting for other businesses like my own for several years. I can tell you that I have a lot of focus. I can tell you I can compartmentalize. I have very good business sense. I'm calm and I don't make rash decisions. And I would like your vote.
Yes, before I served on council, I had been attending meetings for 4 years. Always wanted to know what was going on in my community before I put that public service in. I've served on council for 4.5 years, just recently appointed to the mayor's position when the mayor stepped down. I've been doing that for 3.5 months now. I tell you, on my time as council, 4 years I was council president. I also was the chairman of the park committee that brings your food trucks, your farmers markets, your Halloween events, things like that the community can come together and enjoy. During my time on council as council president, I did let the mayor know that my intentions were to run when his term was up. And I wanted to be more involved, and he was gracious enough to involve me in some of the administration work. So when I took over the position, although there was some things that I had to catch up on, I had pretty good footing because of what he had taught me. What I have for me is my dedication. I have dedicated many years of service to Commercial Point and in my position as council and park committee chair. I'm a hard worker. I feel I have good communication skills. I listen to people. And although we may not always agree, there's always a compromise in the middle, and I feel that I'm really good talking to people in our public. Thank you.
Okay, our next question is, you all get a break. This is just for trustees. What is the most significant issue facing our township, either current or upcoming, and how do you plan to address it?
Hi, is this on? Hello? I'm Raul still, and I think the number one thing is growth. And I know our fire service gets spread thinner and thinner as more rooftops come. And I always voted for pretty much no growth. But I understand now responsible growth is probably the way to go. But my voting record has truly showed no growth. Even I got published that I was the only non-farmer that voted against the big subdivision that wanted to go in the township, and I just was against it. I thought it was just too dense. And I think there needs to be things that are in place first, like schools, like the roads, just the infrastructure itself. So I believe that's something that I will spearhead, and to make sure that in the next 4 years that those things are addressed. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Again, I think it'd be no surprise to everybody that what's in the forefront right now is the growth. Again, this is a rural community that is changing. We have to have the proper leadership and the right discussions to help guide that growth in the best way that preserves the integrity of what we have now and enjoy the reason everybody's here. When I moved down on Gibson Road 97, I was telling somebody earlier, we'd have 2 or 3 cars a night. Now we probably have 100 an hour. So growth has continued to grow. I live on the old Bear Farm. Up the street was the old Bidwell Farm. It was over on Walker Road. You had the Ball Farm, which is now the Strutman Farm. Walker Point was farms. Chestnut Estate, Chestnut Common, Foxheart, is all farms. Growth is here. The industrial growth is on 104, soon to be on the west side of 104. We have to make sure that the right conversations are happening and taking place with all infrastructure. You know, the township doesn't have water and sewer, that is the village Commercial Point. We have to be hand in hand with them, make sure they have the infrastructure and capacity. They got a new plant coming on board that holds that are run basically 2 million gallons a day. But we need to have those conversations. We need to have the school board members. 3 of the 5 school board members live here in Southern Township. We need them at the table, having conversations on how we map out this growth with the developers, their share, and the township share. We do not tax the backs of these residents. You know, we just had a 34% increase in property tax last year. Everybody feels that. We've had inflation. We have all this. We recognize all that, but we also recognize the growth is here. So we have to find the best way to manage that and be responsible, and the best way and preserve the integrity of this community, what we stand for. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I think the biggest thing is with the growth that we don't get to talk too much about it, and I'd like to see with these trustees and the trustees that are on board now, is the taxpayer dollars, where they all go. When I came into West Southern Green over 25 years ago, it was farmland, and we had the new schools come in and stuff. I think the biggest thing is to keep it a close-knit community and the safety for all the citizens and children that are growing up here. but the biggest thing is our taxpayer dollars, where they're going and how to be handled. Thank you.
Thank you. Might as well stay on the roll, go 4 for 4, and let's talk about growth. It's like I said in my welcome, it's inevitable. Everyone knows it's here. It's just at a lower watermark right now. It's gonna get more. So how do we do it responsibly and wise and do it the right way so we don't shoulder the burden? We talk about, it costing this and, people, we gotta have the infrastructure in first. Nobody is going to come in here, no developer is gonna come in here and front millions and millions of dollars to widen the streets and put in sewer and put in electric and all of that stuff and have that money laying on the ground for multiple years before we give them the green light to build. So it's how do we do it in phases, like regular construction, and do it smart, and do it in the cheapest way possible for the site of a township, right? And I believe it can be done, I know it can be done, it's done elsewhere, so, let's just keep it going here.
Well, I better not just mention responsible growth, although obviously it's something I feel strongly about, but I would say the thing facing our communities more than anything is the safety of our families. This is a family-centered community. Like I said, I have 2 young boys, they're teenage boys, and I remember back when I was 13, 14, I was caught over there getting on a Walker Road. First time I ever met Mike Rose, he passed a couple years ago, and I took one step into his field, and I didn't know where it came from. And I look up, there's Mike Rose just looking at me, and I was wanting to go look for some arrowheads, and I didn't even get out of my mouth, could I go look for some arrowheads? And he just pointed and didn't say a word. I knew what he was doing, get down the road. And I learned right then how important this land is to the people that live here. And it doesn't matter, like me going to look for them arrowheads, it wouldn't hurt anything. But it's the fact that that was his land. And I learned from there on, you ask for permission, And I think for us as a community, we need to be asked for permission before a developer just moves in on our roads that we own. These township roads weren't just put in by the township or any government. We literally own the land underneath of our township roads, to the center line of those roads. And I think that a developer does need to pay for those things. I think the highest amount of pressure is on this community to build. It's because we have great value. We have an awesome school system. We have an awesome open area. We have great people. Everybody sitting here, I know all of them. I think I met these 2 recently. They're all very nice people. Christians, people that I can get along with. I've had good discussions with them. I met with a few people yesterday from around here. I have great neighbors that are here tonight. And we really do, I know I said at the opening here, we're doing this for us. You think a special interest is a big government DC term. It's really not. Special interests are here. There's people that have a special interest, just like me, wanting to go look for them arrowheads. But they're not looking for arrowheads. They're coming down here to look for a lot of money because we have so much to offer. And I think they do need to pay it. Growth should come, but it should not be coming here on our backs and on our tax dollars. So that's what I really want to run for. I hope I get your trust. I have a passion for this. I think I've proven that. Sometimes my passion gets the best of me. And my delivery, as Ralph Holdren told me, he said, man, I didn't really like you at first. Holdren told me, he's a good friend of mine now. But at first he didn't like me. And he taught me something. He said, man, I like everything you're saying, but it took me a while to listen. You're spitting, what did you say, spitting facts? He said a little different than I would say. He said, but it took me longer to hear what you're saying because you are telling the truth. You're telling facts that really matter. He said, but you gotta work on your delivery. So I'm trying to work on that and show what I can do for this community together.
Okay, this question's for everyone. Where do you stand with annexations and large development?
I think growth is inevitable. I don't see anything wrong with large annexations as long as we make sure upfront that the people that already live in this community and that are paying their taxes are getting all of the services that they deserve. And is there a surplus that we can then provide to someone else? There's absolutely no sense in people, hardworking people in here, that are paying their taxes to be shorted services so that we can annex huge pieces of property and build a lot of homes. You know, we need to really look at the big picture, you know, see what makes sense, how much per year or per 5 years, before we proceed with just opening the doors and just going crazy and just building hundreds and hundreds of homes. We definitely need to be more responsible and take a look at the bigger picture.
Thank you. So annexations and large developments, two different things. I'm actually for what benefits Commercial Point. So if you're thinking of a large development, your first thing you're gonna look at is, hey, whoa, let's slow down. Annexations and large developments, I think we're behind the curve. I think we need to bring back our zoning and planning commission. That's why I want to serve on the council. That's a big passion for me. We need to have our residents tell us how that looks, how this community looks to them. We need to plan for that. Having all these developments come in all nonchalantly and having folks just trying to figure out where we should put things, what we should put, I think we're behind the curve on that. I think we need to develop a plan so we know where we're going to be in 10, 15, somebody said 25 years, I think Corey did, the way we look. He wasn't expecting 25 years ago to be where we're at now. So we need to collectively do that. Hopefully the mayor, one of the mayors here, will get on board with bringing that commission back, and we can have our residents help us determine where we're going to be and how those annexations will look, and whether large developments need to be here or not. Do they need to be smaller? Do they need to be planned out? What are they? Are they commercial zones? Are they doctor's offices? Are they homes? So that's how I feel about those two issues.
So annexations, that's loaded. And here's why. When I first became a council member, when I was brought into the mayor's office, I asked him, what's the plan? We have all this land that surrounds Commercial Point. Do we have like a plan on looking on the wall for a board, you know, to see what's there? There is no plan. There was no plan. And I was told that it comes to us as it comes to us, and we decide piece by piece. That kind of blew my mind. You know, I had never been part of a village council in planning, but in a small business sense, that didn't make any sense to me that a village this size that's growing like it was is actually not have a plan. As far as annexation, I would say I agree with exactly what they said. It needs to be, and also what we said, it needs to be on the builders. The way I look at things is if you annex a ton of land right away without a plan, you're basically just throwing money down the drain, and it's going to end up on the voters. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that there should be a plan going forward, and I hope to be part of that in making a bright future in setting something in stone to where we not only let warehouses in, we also look at homes being built, not just huge communities, but possibly on that annexed land. I would say communities that have 2 and 3 acre lots and parcels that help bring up the values of our homes around us. That's something that I think that is being lost in translation of, let me annex this land and put in, 1,200 houses and apartments and this and this. I don't think that's a good idea. Hopefully going forward, we can work together as a community to come up with something that I don't think is there right now.
Annexation is a word that nobody wants to talk about and hear. In order there's sometimes that we need to annex the land to protect outside people from annexing it. There are places, several on 104 that Columbus owns. They can easily come in, swoop it up, and put whatever they want. We have no control, no financial benefit. So annexing it actually gives council the control to put what they want there. My voting record will show that I have voted no on large developments, one of which was Addison Farms. Voted it down. The other one was the service resolution for Struckman Farms. Now, service resolution simply states that you are going to provide that land as it sits there with utilities. But what was told to us by the mayor at that time was if you say yes, you're going to accept everything that's going to be built there. And I didn't like everything that was going to be built there. It was too dense. It was too much. So that's why I said no. When developers come in, they have to put the infrastructure in. They have to widen the roads, whatever ODOT tells them to do, they have to do it before they build the first house. And that's how annexations are done. It's annexed, then you get to zoning, and that's when you get to the kit and caboodle of everything. If you don't want the apartments, you say, I don't want that, which we did on Addison Farms. You say you want bigger lots, we can do that. In fact, I have on the agenda for Monday to discuss the R1 and R2 zoning code, because that has been what everybody's been saying, let's get bigger lots. So we as council has the power to change that zoning code. And I think that's what we need to do to help put some relief on the schools. I've spoken with them quite a bit about every development and working diligently with them. Thank you.
Let's go ahead, Stan.
Can you repeat the question again? Oh, I can start my timer.
Where do you stand with annexations and large developments?
Okay. Yeah, that's not something I think I can just theorize about. It's something I've been pretty strongly vocal about. You mentioned the Struckman Farm, so I will follow her lead in mentioning that land. This is not the first time that this come up. It'd be the biggest thing that's ever hit our county as far as development goes. We're talking about multifamily, single-family homes that are 5 foot from the property line. So you're talking about 10 foot. I can just lay down and touch the other house. I'd like to get an opinion from our fire chief on something. That just doesn't sound like a good idea to me. Talk about large multifamily. Talk about asking for permission. Is that something that they've asked our fire department for? We don't even have a fire truck, but not a ladder truck that can go to multifamily rooftops. But this isn't the first time this has come up. It's had 2 opportunities where the township could have objected. One was in 2022, 2023, they can tell you. The township trustees chose not to object. It was the same plan as we have today. Come up again in 2025, earlier this year. Township trustees had the chance to object, they did not object. Even though I went to them while there was still time, please, I pleaded with them from the podium or lectern, whatever you want to call it, please object to this thing. They didn't do it in time, but luckily 2 trustees, Ralph being one of them, to his credit, come to the commissioners meeting asking them to please object. The third time, it was all of us again. To voice, ask them, please object in writing. And they did. So I would be very strongly against any annexation that is not for this community. I think both mayoral candidates agree in that. It could cripple this community. It's not just this township, it's the village too. It could do a lot of damage if you bring something in. It sounds like a good deal, and Nancy's right. They do have to widen the roads. They do have to do these things. But how they do them is no guarantee. They can do a TIF that puts on the backs of the taxpayers, whether it's existing or new. If it's on the new, it sounds good. Well, it's a tip, the new homeowners will pay for it. But they take the money that would usually go to other things and they put it right to that community. Makes a nice community for the developer, pads the developer's profits. And I'm not against profits. Like I said, there's different stages in our lives. I have a couple neighbors here tonight, I hope I don't embarrass you, but Sue Reed back here and Julie Brown. I should ask permission if I could use you as an example, but I grew up she's right there near us, her and her husband. They had 8 acres, they built their home, they raised their family, but there's different stages of life. We want growth. If my wife and I, we raise our family, there's gonna be a time that we will wanna move into a smaller house with less maintenance, a smaller property, and I wanna have a house to be able to move into. So we want growth, but do we want growth with big multi-families? And okay, I'll finish it on the next question, maybe. I think you see where I was headed with that one.
Right, annexation and development. I guess that I wanna, development, there's a lot to that word, right? What kind of development? You know, and that's what we have to look at on a case-by-case basis. You know, are we talking 1,200 homes that are 10 feet apart, like Corey said? Or are we talking smaller, developments and more room, and the footprint is smaller, and you know, on an acreage and everything like that. So there's a lot of factors into it that we can't just say, well, we're against growth and we don't want growth, let's grab our torches and pitchforks and run the developers out of town. We can't do that, you know. That's equivalent to, you know, closing the door, turning off the lights and saying you're not welcome here. I moved here, you're not welcome here. And it doesn't have to be that way. And as far as, you know, again, on the annexation, if you just look north, you know, Nancy made a good point with Columbus coming down 104. You know, it's done in such a way that you don't even notice it, you know? And I asked somebody the other day, I said, take this challenge and drive through Grove City. Look at every fire station in Grove City and see what's parked there. Not only will there be a Franklin County Sheriff's Department car there, but there's also a Columbus PD car there. It's coming, right? So do we just want to be, like I said in my opening statement, do we want to be history or do we want to be legacy? And if we do it smart, we can do it the right way. And one other thing that I want to mention with all of this, I stated earlier that I've never served in a public role, but if elected in this position, I'm not representing myself. I'm representing you, the people of Scioto Township. And if there's something, I welcome you to stop me. My wife and I and family are building a diner down here. We've been building it forever, it seems. This has been the slowest process in my life. We're getting very, very close to opening at 19 East Scioto Street. Stop in, see me, talk to me. If I'm elected, tell me what's on your mind. I'm here to represent you, not my interests. I care, but it's not about me, it's about you. I'm there for you, right? And I believe that we need to invest in our future. There isn't anybody sitting here, you know, I look back at my grandson, there isn't anybody here that hasn't taken the time personally in their life and invested in their future, right? I saved money, I got a nicer car, I got a nicer home, and I moved up the ladder.
I wrote 3 things down for your question about annexation and large development. I think number 1, balanced growth with preserving our green spaces and our outdoor tradition. Number 2, keep it efficient and cost effective. Lastly, keep the infrastructure safe for us and our children and future grandchildren.
Thanks, Andy. I believe there's 2 distinct differences between annexation and large growth. Annexation is the first step. Annexation is going to be into the village Commerce Point, simply for the fact is they provide the infrastructure. That being the water, that being the sewer, that we have Southern Point, who gets water and sewer from the village, but it's in the township. The township cannot, function putting in a water and sewer plant. That's just not fiscally responsible. So the annexation comes first. With that annexation, then you have the actual ability as a township and as the village and as the partnerships to see what type of development that is. Just because somebody comes in from XYZ ABC developer and says, I want to put in 1,200 homes, that's not a given. The annexation means the village will take the ownership of the annexation of the land. The developer still has to meet all those requirements, whether that's a traffic impact study, whether they got to go out and do the financing. They enter these agreements with TIFs, or with TID. They go through PWC, they go through the state safer grants, STIP grants, or major new project grants, just as we have over here on 762 and 23, that $54 million, $72 million project coming forward. So there is ways to control the growth once the annexation is there. The annexation, I believe, is the first step, and then that's when we have to be mindful, again, preserve the integrity. We, as a township of the village and local community, have the ability to restrict and guide that growth. We got a plant down the street here coming in called Andrew, has 4,000 potential employees. Those are going to be looking for rooftops. You're going to have either low-income starter homes, you're going to have some apartments. You look at Asheville, South Winfield, look at the new apartments over there. Rooftops are going to be needed. With that comes a demand on our fire and EMS. We was able to do the same thing with the industrial park over here, the same thing with the fire department in the township. The village doesn't have a fire, it is the township. We have a seat at that table. Every plan will have to be approved by the local fire department chief, which is Chief Klein Townships, and we will be a part of that. You should have water, you got sewer, you also have to have the electrical capacity. There's an upgrade coming through down on 104, just come through Pickwick County. You have to have the electrical capacity to do that as well. You have to have the schools at the table, get their set-aside funding agreement. If there is tax abatement up to 65%, then there's a standalone agreement, the schools enter to make sure they're made whole. The fire department is made whole. Then you work with the developers to make sure that we do have a fire engine ladder. If they don't have a ladder, they don't get insurance rates. Thanks.
Hi there, I just wish I was a trustee about 23 years ago, because there wouldn't be buildings on 104. You can look at my track record, like Mayor Nancy said on my voting, I've always voted no. I went down screaming at the council saying, hey, this Addison Farms, they want to put apartments. We don't have a ladder truck. And yes, in one of those township meetings, I asked Mr. Struckman, why don't you just buy us a ladder truck? I have no problem saying that to people. I just speak my mind. I don't like annexation at all. But it's coming, it's inevitable, like it's been spoken. So I want to make sure that our township is made whole. That's why I have objected to that annexation on Gibson Road, because we don't know, they could do this annexation and 5 years down the road, they start on the road and there's parts of that road now that could need fixed. So I'm not about annexation, but there's only one vote with the other two trustees. So if it's good growth, great, but I'm really not for the annexation. I grew up on a farm, so I like farmland. Thank you.
You could just hang on to that.
Okay.
The next question is for trustees.
Want to break, Ralph?
Yeah, not at all. I didn't make it right. I'm here. I'll sing the national anthem if y'all want me to.
Well, we want to. Sing it. Took his hat off and then I'll start singing.
You ready?
Yes.
There has been much said recently regarding our public safety services, fire and law enforcement, and how they are currently overwhelmed as it is. As a trustee, how do you plan to address this issue?
Very well. I'm sure people know the Ratcliffe name. When I first became trustee, I went down probably like the first month of me being a trustee, and I met Robbie Ratcliffe, super great guy. And he said, you know, Ralph, I've tried for 10 years to get a sheriff contract. It's not going to happen. And I said, well, you haven't met Raoul Wolf yet. So come on down Thursday. And he did. He brought down a 20-hour and then a 40-hour. And theatrics, I ripped up the 20 hours. I said, we don't want some part-time deputy. And then as time went on, it got up to about $120,000 for the contract, and it just wasn't suitable. I'd have to go over and tell the guy, hey, get the heck out of the firehouse, you're a deputy, ride the roads on the township. So it just got very aggravating, and then at the end of the day, when there is a service call in the township, the deputy has to show up anyway. So, and sometimes they're way down, south, and they can't get to a run, then Commercial Point will help and come and pick it up, which is nice. They came in Southern Point many times, Commercial Point has. The police department's great there in Commercial Point. So, and I would look at another contract in January, absolutely, if it was feasible for the township and it made sense. So, thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Rob alluded to, back, we had a contract with the sheriff's office when I was a trustee for the first term there, for the second term. We brought them in and we asked for a 40-hour shift. When it started, it was great. Lieutenant Hempstead actually was the patrolling sheriff in our jurisdiction. Then I believe he's captain now, correct?
Yes, he's
Yes,
captain,
yes.
absolutely.
But, so they did 40-hour shifts. They had a dedicated employee. That contract, I believe, the first time around was around $70,000, give or take. Fast forward, we kept cycling through different sheriffs on the 40-hour shifts. Also, we found ourselves, they was working 3 days a week, and they would not be Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays. They would be during the week, mid shifts, split shifts, whatever. We had issues with them not patrolling the streets, but actually, like Ralph alluded to, maybe visiting one of our structures or fire departments or other accessory buildings and setting. That was not patrolling. And finally got to was north of $100,000 of our taxpayers' dollars for basically 40-hour shift that we didn't feel that we was getting the services that was required. The last contract we did not renew, not only because of the fiscal responsibility, but the legal language in that contract. That contract had us tied to a union contract with the sheriff's office that had escalators in there and tied to their legal binding union contracts that we felt and our council felt did not meet the best interest of the township. Therefore, we severed the contract and we have relied upon the sheriff's office, same sheriff's office, who's responsible legally to patrol and answer calls and responses to the township, Commercial Point Police Department, as well as the High Patrol post and runs up and down here. So I believe we are adequately covered, but there's always a time to revisit that, but it has to be on terms that's beneficial to the taxpayers of this township as well. Thank you.
Thanks, John. If elected in this position, I feel that I'd like to look at the books, the fiscal books on what the township has to offer as far as expanded police force. We have a fine village community of police force here. One idea I've thought about the structure and infrastructure with police force is there's a lot of law enforcement students that are going to colleges and stuff at the local program and around this area is to have a volunteer patrol, ride with a off-duty deputy sheriff, etc., to save the cost of that. So there's many ideas that I thought of about that, but that's one of them, is having volunteers on the patrol. Thank you.
Hey, public safety is one of my biggest concerns. And who are we? We're Cyber Township. We're not Cyber County. We reside within Pickaway County. So if I just don't see, I applaud my predecessor in canceling the contract because of the fiscal irresponsibility with it. Why should we pay for a contract of a county that they should cover anyways? And I would gladly work with Sheriff Havey to see what we could do to help them in whatever way possible to bolster their recruitment efforts or whatever it takes to make that department bigger, better, so we have adequate coverage inside of the township. But here's a thought. How many townships out there have their own police force? You know, to kind of spur off Andy's idea, because I've given this some thought,
I think it's something that should be looked at and investigated, or even just taking the first step and saying, instead of contracting, if we want coverage outside of the village and we don't want to wait for Pickaway County to show up or the state to show up, with the growth that is happening in Commercial Point with Chief Adams' department, why don't we contract with the village and get the coverage outside of the village through them? If we're gonna give the money, let's give it to where we live, where we reside, and get the coverage. And even, it might just be a Band-Aid fix until the county steps up and is able to cover the area adequately. I think there's a lot that could be done and different avenues you could look at to make sure that everybody stays safe inside the township.
Yeah, I think that was my olive branch I gave to them a couple days ago. I posted about this, and it struck me. Yeah, I've got this question quite a bit. That's a shameless plug too. I brought some cards. On the back of it has this exact issue. Straight from the minutes in May 19, 2022, it says the trustees have not had any complaints that the township does not have the contract. They let it lapse. So they will wait and see what happens. And I don't think we're at a point in our community, we have the most, like we've been talking about, all of us, we have the most pressure from growth. And it all comes down to our family safety. And we are not at a point, we weren't at a point in 2022, and we surely aren't at a point now to gamble our family's safety. I would strongly disagree that there's, that sounds nice out there, don't it? I would strongly disagree that contract was worth canceling. And I'm not just saying this to kiss butt or nothing, I strongly believe that we have the best sheriff in the state of Ohio, Sheriff Matthew Hagee. He does an excellent job, and I think he's the best expert in the state as far as it goes taking care of us. And if we had an opportunity to work with him, some may disagree, I'm sorry, but I don't. I think he does an excellent job. And if we have the opportunity to continue working with him, I think it's worth reconsidering. Remember, this might sound unrelated, but I was young, like my boys, another kid's story. I was writing a song with my grandma. She was very musical. She passed away not too long ago, so I think about her every day. And we were working on this song, and it wasn't going the way I liked it. And I said, Grandma, we're done with it. Let's start a new song. She said, Corey, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And she said, start again. And we ended up using a lot from that song, and we made a good song out of it. So I would say with the sheriff contract, the baby should not have been thrown out with the bathwater. If you didn't like how the hours were handled or whatever, they're spending too much time at the fire station, you sit down with the best sheriff we have in the state, and you work it out and make a better deal for the people. That's what I would say about that.
The next question is going to be for everybody, so we want to, we'll start down to Nancy. Okay, what does transparency mean in government, and what will you do to be more transparent?
I feel that I have always been transparent. Everyone has known how I have felt every step of the way. I feel I do a good job right now of keeping council up to date on what we're going on. I've now started what I wanted as a council person, is to have someone on council come to meetings when we meet with developers. And our council president has been to meetings. I think it's important because council knows, as I did when I was on there, what we want and what we expect. There's some things that you can't be 100% on because we're under NDAs. And so there's some things we cannot speak on, or we could get in trouble ourselves. But other than that, I think be open with the community of what's coming in, what wants to come in, and just be honest and listen to people. And I think I've done a really good job at that. Thank you.
Transparency. My time on council, that was something that I fought for. I saw the mayor at that time actually meet with developers, and he often took Nancy with him. The rest of the council was not privy to any of that information until the mayor decided that it was time. I always thought that was a bad call. One of the things that I would hope to do if I get your vote to become mayor is if the developer wants to come in and talk to the mayor, they're gonna have to meet with the full council during a council meeting. That's the way I feel. I don't think it should be between the mayor and the president pro tem, as it has been the past 4.5 years. That's nothing new. I just want to put that out there right now. And she is correct about the NDAs. General session is one thing, but when you go into executive session, it's for if it's an employee matter, if the village is getting sued, or if there's an NDA involved. That's the only thing that should be talked about in those meetings. Everything else should be done in general session, unless legally we're not allowed to. So I would say transparency to me would be making sure that every single one of the council members that's on my council, if I become mayor, has the same information that the president pro tem does from that point forward. And I think that you'll see a lot of, it'll open your eyes.
I do a rebuttal.
We do rebuttals.
30 seconds.
1 minute or something?
1 minute.
I'm not making the rules, I just said.
I just want to speak on what we do in council meetings now is if we have a developer that wants to come in, we say, you need to bring it to council. And they're under our business items on our agenda. That's the way it's been. I did not go to every meeting. I went to some, because some I was permitted to go, and some he didn't want me there. But yeah, we've had Addison Farms, we've had Struckman Farms come in to meet with their proposed plan to show to council. So those are not only behind closed doors. I want to make that clear. And I've said the same thing, if someone wants to come in, you need to come speak to council, because that's who makes the ultimate decision. Thank you.
So back to transparency. In a word, it's vital. It builds trust, credibility, and faith in our government. I think we've had some steps recently where we've been able to get a little bit more information from the administration, from council. Thanks for the folks who actually videotape some of our sessions. We need to step up and do some more. We need to have our financials, any audits that we have, we need to have those posted. Anything that we need to have should be readily accessible. We shouldn't have to, in previous administrations, you'd have to send in a request for information that really should be readily available on our website, publicly, kind of at a snap of a finger. I think we need to move more towards that. We need to advance some of our technology in our village, and I'm sure I probably won't get any arguments with either one of these folks. I think we need to move forward on that in order to build that credibility and that trust so our residents can see, hey, what ordinances do we have? What does this relate to? How quickly can we find this? Even posting from the village on social media so we can get directly from the mouths of our government what's going on immediately. So.
Transparency. I have to add, on to some of what you've said, having Scott video the meetings, I think is great, so that anybody in the community can go on at any time and see what was discussed. I think Nancy's newsletters that she started to put out that kind of tell what's going on in the community and shed a little light on things for everybody. Absolutely hate any meetings behind closed doors. I think the idea of the builders always having to come to council is a great idea. Everybody needs to know exactly what's going on at any given time, especially when you're talking about annexing large parcels of land or huge developments. Everyone in the community needs to be aware so that they can come to that meeting and they can stand at the podium and have a chance to voice their concerns.
Thank you. When I first became trustee, I was told this server was at the old firehouse in the basement. I'm like, oh my gosh, there could be a million things go wrong with that. So we hired a Grove City IT company, and our server is in a cloud, and they hold it and everything. They also give us our email accounts for the township. The website's been updated greatly for the last 8 years. And at every trustee meeting, it's unfortunate that a resident has to show up to video, so that's one thing I do want to get done in January, is to have the video meetings, so that people can actually watch the trustee meetings without using an anonymous name or anything like that. But also, I think it's really important with transparency, because this ain't the council's money, this ain't the township trustees' money, this is the constituents' money, this is the citizens paying their money. So they should know where the money goes. So I'm all about transparency and showing line by line exactly what money's coming in and what money's going out. So when I started my working with the public, I was the HOA president of Southern Point, and I just realized after 2 meetings that we paid $34,700 to an attorney group to get us back $6,100 in dues just the year before. And I said, man, I want to go to law school. I want this job. So I fired that attorney group, and we hired a retired judge that only charged $5,000 for the year, and he got us back around $22,000 in past dues just that first year. So I'm all about transparency. Let's see where we can cut the fat out and be very accommodating for the citizens, because it is you all's money. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Transparency. Transparency brings accountability, and that's a good thing. It's back in late 2023, Township passed a resolution to have all meetings, audio and video. As Ralph alluded to, when we first come in, the old server was in the basement of the fire department. We would spend more money on maintenance than it was worth. So we went, Grove City entered into a contract with Grove City IT. They manage all the IT's services. Like I said, in last of 2023, there was a resolution passed, funded, money was allocated to video and audio every single meeting, regular meeting, special meeting. You can't go into executive session for litigation, personnel matters and all that. But all the other meetings were to be audio and videotaped. Sure, early in 2024, that resolution either was voided or a resolution passed to no longer fulfill that need. It's kind of embarrassing as a township of this size, with all the activity you've heard going on here today, that we now, the township is relying on the good services of Mr. O'Neill here to attend meetings and video and then post. The township should not, one, rely on a private citizen, or two, put themselves in that position. I'm very grateful for what he does for this community, and he should be applauded for that. But it's time, well past time, for the township to stay committed to what it was in 2023 and get back to video and audio. All the budget that you hear about, all those are open public. The township gets audited, every state auditor's board. I just read the 2023 state auditor's report online yesterday, so all the books are open. Again, all of us are taxpayers, so all that's our money. So feel free anytime to reach out to Terry Brill, Chris Walser, for any of the books or the township, like Ralph said. Every meeting, there's a ledger posted of all the money spent from the last meeting to the new meeting, balances of savings account and regular general operating and the appropriations. The budget is all public documents. But again, as far as audio, video, it should be done. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Transparency in government, things I wrote down here is open books and the fiscal budget, which we discussed earlier. I'd like to encourage open forums for the public to speak at every township meeting. No closed doors, and an openness to decision making. That's my ideas of transparent government.
Thank you. Transparency, how do I feel about transparency? If you take one of my cards, one of my rack cards, one of my business cards back there, my phone number's on it, my email's on it, I'm 100% transparent. Like I said last time, I'm running to represent you, not me, not my interest, your interest. If there's something that's being handled by the township that you wanna know about, call and ask me. I would rather you call me and ask me, or email me and ask me and have me answer, than you get your answers on social media. Go to the source, get your answers there, because then it's not twisted, you're getting it direct. The rest of it is just, it falls in line, right? It's your money, we have to be transparent with how it's being spent. It's your township, we have to be transparent on decisions that are being made in its future.
Thank you. This is something that is very dear to my heart. I'll tell you what, transparency. I've realized, somebody asked me the other day, what are you? Are you an activist, or what are you? I grew up thinking activist. Actually, didn't seem like a very good term, but I was like, you know what, maybe I am an activist, because I want to change some of these things. Once you dig into these things, you realize that there is a curtain. In front of that curtain, we all get to see it. Behind that curtain, it could be the same as what we see in public, but a lot of times it's not. And take the sheriff's contract, for example. That happened in 2022. Something that also happened in 2022 was a vote. Per the state of Ohio, they recommend that emails are preserved for 5 years. Well, in 2022, our township trustees decided it's best to lower that to 2 years. Only preserve emails for 2 years. Why, I don't know. It's one thing I'll change, I hope to, with a board that would be willing to, change that back to 5 years minimum. We should be able to look back at that sheriff's contract and see exactly what happened. And if you read in the minutes, it said there was a discussion, there was dealings being made between the township and the sheriff, how to make this a better contract. One of them said, did you get my email with things I'd like added to the contract? He said, yes. But we can't today go back and look at those emails to see what happened, how can we do it better, because the emails have been destroyed. It was confirmed to me today that any emails on a revolving thing, if they're 2 years old, they're deleted. Again, why? I don't know. That needs to change. We should be able to ask as residents, can I see 4 years ago when this went through? Another part of transparency I think is very important. Big things happen that affect you right next to your home. And I think just putting a burden on the community to come to a meeting is too much when it's a big thing that might affect a lot of us. I think as a trustee, if you know that your neighbors, and I consider everyone in the township my neighbor, if you know that your neighbors are going to be affected big time by a big decision, go out there just like you did when you campaigned. Knock on the door. Do you realize a vote's coming up soon, whether it be the village or the township, that directly affects you? And I want to be that person that represents you, not just in the meetings that barely anybody attend. And I want to say thank you to Scott. I tell him all the time. I know we argue like cats and dogs sometimes, but we're actually friends. We may have differing opinions, but most of the time we find out where we differ, and we don't. I appreciate him coming, recording these things, because most of us in this room would not know what's going on in these meetings unless they watch the video. I think myself and Ralph were the only one, other than here recently, that attends these meetings, township meetings. So it's nice to be able to watch them. I'm sure they appreciate it too, to see what's going on instead of attending. So that would be a good thing. Only problem with it, if we just do it as the government, we wouldn't see Scott as much. So I think if we do it, have them volunteer to do it.
That'd be a good thing to know.
Can we give a round of applause for him real quick? We do appreciate it.
The next question is for everyone.
I told you I love it.
Do you want to take it?
Sure.
Start?
No, I'll do it back down here.
All right. Has there been a time where you admitted a mistake publicly? When and what?
Yeah, actually there is. Not to pull a family into it, I don't want to use their name, but it was during COVID, and the governor came out and said, oh, everyone has to stay 4 or 6 feet away from each other. And Dwight had passed away, Ratcliffe, about 2 weeks later, and there's about 400 people, and everyone's all huddled in under the tent and stuff at that cemetery down there. But we had a family wet burial, and I just felt ungodly bad about it. Because we didn't know, we were following guidelines of what the governor came down to say, here's how we have to do it, because, you know, at that time, it was so fresh, COVID was, we didn't know if somebody could get COVID from the person they're bringing to bury. We had no idea, we had no answers. And I personally reached out to every single person in that family. And I can tell you today, they're all on my Facebook, I love them to death, they're great. And it was something that I felt that if I look back, I probably would have did anything different because that was the guidelines then. But I just felt absolutely horrible. And that's one thing that I corrected. I made sure to reach out to that family and assure them that, hey, by the way, and I reached out a few weeks later and I said, you know, the sheriff, Dwight, had his burial, and there was around 400 people, and they're all huddled together, and the governor has a set of rules, but apparently they didn't want to follow it there, and I just felt disgusted. So that's it. Thanks.
I'll piggyback on what Ralph said. During that time, COVID was a global pandemic. The rules were changing, seemed daily, if not twice a day. And the governor put out guidance to the state funeral directors and association that during funerals, you don't have X amount of people, you have to have social spacing, masks, the whole 9 yards. The local funeral directors here that we service this area and held burials outside of the township, followed those guidelines. There was an incident, unfortunately, where a family came. There was too many that did follow the guidelines, and there were some interactions between Ralph and I and with that family, and there were some situations that been uncomfortable for the family and upsetting, and you can only imagine during the rough times of your life, losing a loved one, the emotions are high. But we were following the guidelines from the governor, from the state, and the local funeral directors. Good thing is, they did come back into a future meeting after that, and there were some postings on Facebook recently where somebody brought that post up because it was a post that was kind of harsh on the trustees, and one or two of the family members actually said we're reflecting back on that they was put in a bad position as well as the trustees, and I think those feelings were amended. But, you know, that was a pandemic that we all was learning on the fly. Right where we're sitting right now, this was turned into a fire department station. This was an annex station just to control the COVID, the growth of the COVID and the exposures from the state prison. That we took more runs during COVID than any fire department in the state of Ohio. Because every inmate is a citizen for tax versus census purpose for the township, and we have a mutual aid agreement as well as a contract with the state. So COVID was a trying time. We all learned from COVID, and I think it made us all more better aware of our public service and how we relate to our constituents.
Years ago, I came up with the idea, and we used to have go-kart races here for many years. Brought up the idea with a couple fire department members here. A couple of them are passed now, but bringing the high school together and the high school football club and the wrestlers to bale the hay. Back in the day, it used to be the prisoners out of Warren that do the fences and stuff, but it was putting out bales of hay. And I told the head coaches on the football and the wrestling team that we would only have about 400 or 500 bales of hay. About 20-some years ago, it was about 2,000 bales of hay. And I made a mistake to the public sector in that. And a lot of boys went home tired and late at night, but it was my idea to get them involved, and the township brought in some money to the high school, and it still continues now. So that's one thing I remember making a public mistake about. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. I just turned 57 2 weeks ago.
Happy birthday, Dan.
Well, thank you. If anybody thinks that I haven't made a mistake and had to apologize in the last 57 years, wow. I'm human. I probably screwed up. You know, you can't be a person, you can't be a parent, you can't be the president of the men's club, you can't be a leader in the church, you can't be a member of the community and not screw up. You can't stay secluded, you know. One of my favorite things was introverts unite in your own home. You're still gonna screw up, you know? But I'll be the first one to admit when I've made a mistake. Because every mistake I've ever made that I've had to apologize for, I've learned from, and I've never done it again. And I think that's the important part.
Thank you. Well, could you ask that question again?
Has there been a time where you admitted a mistake publicly? When and what?
Okay. Well, my mother's here tonight, so I'd probably like to have her answer that because her book, I'm a total angel, and there's really nothing for me to apologize for. But my wife's here too, so I wouldn't let her answer that because I think we only got 20 minutes left and it definitely wouldn't be enough time. But I will tell you, there was something recently. We was at a Charlie Kirkgård vigil the other day, and I walked up to a friend of mine, I grabbed his chair to help him to where he's gonna sit instead of his wife that was carrying her chair. So I'd say I need to publicly apologize for that. And I'm probably too many jokes in, so I'll tell a serious one, because this one's very serious. Recently at a township trustee meeting, I was misquoted 2 different things in the minutes, and I feel like it's your permanent record. It's like you go back to school and they threaten you with, that's going on your permanent record, you know, it's the end of the world. And I think minutes are your permanent record. I know I referred to them a little bit tonight. I think all of us running, those are your thing you go to. You look back at those minutes and you see what happened over the last 5 years. And it's very important to look at. So I felt very strongly, if my name's on it, and I do this on the zoning commission, I'm the vice chair of the zoning commission, and if my name's there, and I'll teach my boys, if your name is written there, you look extra closely, because that's your permanent record. It says where you was, what place and time, what you did, what you said. So I always do that, and I know I get on Terry's nerves sometimes, but I question it. I said